Hello and welcome to the Farming Today podcast with me, Charlotte Smith. In this episode, the search for fertilisers which don't have to be imported so they're less vulnerable to geopolitical events, and Capercaillie impersonations in the Cairngorms.
Give another one a go, it's almost like a...
And we're taking you to the Cairngorms right away, because this week we are on a whistle-stop tour of some of the UK's national parks, marking the 75th anniversary of the first one being established in the Peak District. We'll be exploring the work going on in national parks to conserve the landscape, historical features and wildlife, which brings us to Capercaillies. The Capercaillie is a magnificent bird which lives in Scottish pine forests, but numbers in Scotland of this turkey-sized member of the grouse family have shrunk desperately low, to just 500 or so birds at the last count. There is, though, a shred of fresh hope for its survival through a scheme in the Cairngorms. Richard Baines has been to find out more.
I'm in Abernethy National Nature Reserve near Nethy Bridge in the Cairngorms National Park. I'm at the heart of the Capercaillie habitat here. With me is Ben Oliver-Jones, who's the Senior Site Manager here for the RSPB, which manages the reserve.
So we've got a 50% increase in their numbers from around 20 to 30 lacking males. They return to the same lek sites year on year, where male Capercaillie perform their courtship behaviour. We also monitor the number of hens and broods on the reserve through remote camera traps, and we're also seeing good numbers of broods of Capercaillie.
We're not actually likely to see any Capercaillie in these woods today, or hear them, but you can give us a quick impersonation of the sound they make, can't you?
I could give it a go. They're known as the horse of the wood for their size and for the clip-clop sound that they make. Give another one a go, it's almost like a...
The increase in Capercaillie in this nature reserve is not just a coincidence. You've taken quite a lot of measures.
We've got field layer management using robo-cutters and cows. They're big remote controlled mowers that can be really precise in cutting the tall rank heather and promotion of blaeberry growth. Blaeberries are a much more beneficial plant species for Capercaillie as a food source and for the invertebrates that the Capercaillie chicks rely on.
And one of the other measures that you mentioned is just come to see us. And they're quietly munching in the background.
What these cows are doing, they are breaking up the dense rank heather through their grazing behaviour and their heavy hoofs, again promoting that blaeberry growth. We're removing the deer fencing, which reduces the collision risk for these birds. We are also using diversionary feeding, putting out parcels of venison. It's a byproduct of our deer management on the reserve. During the Capercaillie breeding season, we're trying to draw generalist predators away from where Capercaillie are nesting. It includes pine martens and badgers. So we've just arrived at one of our new trackside borrow pits for repairing the potholes.
This is like a small quarry.
Yeah, but Capercaillie absolutely love these for dust bathing, and it's a perfect spot for counting them with camera traps.
Now, in actual fact, the Capercaillie died out in Scotland 240 years ago and was reintroduced from Sweden. So these aren't native Scottish birds. So is it really worth all this effort, Ben, to save a bird that's actually doing quite well elsewhere in its range?
From the RSPB's perspective, that certainly is something worth doing. But the work that we're doing for Capercaillie doesn't just benefit Capercaillie, it benefits the health of the forest and the money that we spend on Capercaillie conservation. The money is going to local contractors, benefiting local farmers, enabling us to employ staff members, all of which benefits the local Highland economy.
Richard Baines reporting there from the Cairngorms, more from national parks throughout the week. The price of fertiliser is something we've been talking about a lot over recent weeks. Prices are up about 40%. That's largely because of conflict in the Middle East, which has pushed up the price of gas, and that makes up the majority of the cost of nitrogen fertiliser. Some farmers are warning that rising fertiliser and diesel prices will have to be passed on through more expensive food. Well, all that is sharpening the focus on efforts already underway to find innovative new sources of fertilisers, which don't have to be imported and can reduce greenhouse gas emissions. This morning, we're going to look at two of them, starting with a Lincolnshire company, SmartFert, which uses byproducts from industrial or agricultural processes, or as they prefer to call them, low-value residues. Mary Ward-Lowry has been to meet company founder Robin Watchorn.
One of the first products we looked at was these big poultry units, million birds, burning their own manure for energy, which leaves a really rich ash, high in nutrients, similar to chemical fertilisers, with the advantage of lots of trace elements.
We've got a pot full of it here and it just looks like a very sort of pale grey powder.
It's very difficult to handle because it's very light, so we take that away from those sites and then we make that into a granular fertiliser, 2 to 5 mil, that all farmers can apply, which is guaranteed to spread 36 metres.
And does it have the same
nutrients as imported chemical fertilisers, with the addition of lots of trace elements, especially sulphur and calcium. Carbon footprint, sustainability, it ticks all the boxes.
How come we've not done this before? Is this a new thing?
We've been working with the material now, 6 years? And most of these plants were built probably just slightly prior to that. And the people who built them didn't know what to do with the ash because it's very difficult to handle. So it was just good timing on our part that we were able to take this and produce these fine products.
And what's the take-up been like? Do people want to buy this?
Yeah, we're a self-funding business, so we have to sell products to funders, and we've had good uptake from both the granular and the other materials that we supply.
It's not dangerous to handle? Or...
No.
Okay, does it have a smell?
No smell. Obviously, it's all environmentally approved. Stores well.
How does this fit into the existing market at the moment?
Well, the fertiliser market is still quite big. It's probably sort of 1.7 million tonnes, something like that, per annum, which is basically all imported. We need to grow our range, starting to produce a high nitrogen granular product that will come on the market probably in a year's time. So we're working in the water industry with AD plants, etc., to find additional products that we can use and granulate to increase this range.
How do you test its effectiveness as a fertiliser?
We initially analyse the materials, and then we have been doing farm trials, and we do a lot of trials here with the university to make sure that the boxes are ticked for these products.
I mean, one of the problems with using biodigestates is that they do have a terrible smell and people don't like it. Local people don't like it. But you seem to have avoided that.
A lot of these materials don't have that problem. You start going into the water industry and AD plants, that's a different thing. And we have now a range of materials that takes the nose out of the smell that you're saying. So when you open the bag, there's no smell.
Robin Watchorn there. Well, from chicken poo to human waste, which a Bristol-based company is hoping to turn into a plant fertiliser good enough to grow a forest. NPK Recovery collects urine during festivals and events, recycling the nutrients into a fertiliser to help the grass grow back on the fields afterwards. Now, as part of a UK-first trial, the team plans to use the fertiliser in a project growing thousands of native British trees. BBC Wales Environment correspondent Stefan Messenger has been finding out more.
What we've got here is the solid version of our fertiliser product. So this right here is enriched with nutrients that we have recovered from human urine.
Yes, you heard that right. We, from thousands of festival goers and marathon runners, has made its way to this tree nursery on the outskirts of Abergavenny. As Lucy Bell-Reeves from the company behind the project, Bristol-based NPK Recovery, explains.
You get the urine from events, so that might be sporting events, it could be music festivals. We actually have a kind of mobile version of our processing system. So last year we took that to Boomtown Festival, we connected into toilets on site and we processed while the event was underway. So what we do is we recover the nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium from urine, but urine also contains a lot of micronutrients, things like magnesium, which are really beneficial for tree growth. Biochar is also a sustainable material that's really helpful for tree growth. So what we've done is we've combined these kind of two sustainable sources for nutrition, and then we've created a solid fertiliser.
So far, it's been used to help fields recover after outdoor festivals and to grow crops like wheat. But this will be the first time the fertiliser's been trialled on trees. The company's partnered with Welsh charity Stump Up for Trees, which aims to plant 1 million trees in and around the Cairngorms National Park.
So it is a farmer-focused community up initiative to bring about ecological restoration in South East Wales. And we plant shelter belts and we plant small native woodlands in field corners.
Author and journalist Rob Penn is the charity's co-founder. What do you make of this idea of the human urine fertiliser?
I mean, I think it's circular economy. It just makes complete sense as far as I'm concerned. So NPK Recovery came to us and said, would you be interested? And, we had to hang on a second. What are you using for fertiliser? But pretty quickly we got a head around it. And if it works, then that's a big step forward in forestry.
Now, before you get any ideas, weeing in your garden to try and help the plants grow isn't the best plan. The process this fertiliser goes through removes contaminants from the urine, and crucially, it gets rid of the smell too. Longer term, what's the potential of this research, if you like? Because we know it's a timely conversation given what's happening in the Middle East and, the pressures on the availability of synthetic fertiliser.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So, the whole reason kind of we got started is, human urine is naturally rich in these nutrients that we are synthetically producing abroad, creating lots of greenhouse gases, or also we might be affected by events overseas. And so our hope is that actually by proving the long-term viability of a sustainable urine-based fertiliser, that could actually protect us longer term as a country from having to import fertiliser from overseas. We have the nutrients in our body, let's recycle them, let's recover them and put them to use.
The 3-year trial is backed by over £400,000 of Forestry Commission funding to support innovation in the sector. By the end, they hope to have 4,500 native British trees to plant locally, helped along by human wee.
Stefan Messenger reporting. And that's it from us. I'm Charlotte Smith. The producer is Sarah Swadling. And Farming Today is a BBC Audio Bristol production.